Good morning, gardening friends. Welcome to Mimi and Gary Kay's garden. Mimi is enjoying the sunshine on the front porch. It's a beautifully sunny day, about 10 o'clock. Chilly, it's in the 50s. Thought I'd start here in the front porch. My amaryllis from Christmas has one flower left, and then it'll be planted outside. I'm going to wait until next week to put it outside. We're due for our first hard freeze. It keeps changing, but it looks like it's going to be Monday night now rather than Tuesday night. So, there'll be a lot of changes in the garden. Still, things are blooming in here. I still have my anthurium. It's got one flower left on it. I bought this plant from Walmart quite a few years ago, and it has pretty much had flowers on it ever since. This is the second time I've repotted it to that size. Here's my wandering dude from the cutting I took out in the garage. I put all my tillandsias on this cactus after Christmas. I used to have them in egg cups, but there were some spots on the cactus that they would fit, so I put them there. And then yesterday I went out and grabbed some Spanish moss. This basket has always been lopsided, so I figured let me put a clump of Spanish moss in there. And when I got it off the trees, I noticed that there were some larger bits. Spanish moss is a tillandsia, and there were like bigger bits in it. I don't know if that's just another version of Spanish moss or if I got some tillandsias free when I bought the moss online. You can see one of my begonias. My hyacinths that I bought are still in bloom. I always try to get pink. Blue would be my second choice. I don't buy bulbs because it's a pain to have to refrigerate them. Rather than that, what I do is Walmart does carry flats of them, usually the third week of January. And you buy them already sprouted. They're a little more expensive. Last year, I think they were $1.25 per plant. But I only get a flat of them, so it's not terribly bad. You can see the pencil cactus is doing well. My flame begonia is still in bloom. There you can see the problem with flame begonias. Once when they bloom, they start losing bits and pieces. And I've got 3 amaryllis on the way. Here's one that my neighbor gave me. And I apologized to her, but I just couldn't stand it. It was one of those that was encased in a, not plastic, but a wax base. And I felt so bad for the bulb, I ran it under the wax base under some warm water and it loosened up. And so I went ahead and picked all of the wax off and potted it up. So it seems to be doing well there. And I am going to try to single-handedly bring back potted aspidistra. Aspidistra is or was a very favorite Victorian potted plant because it grows anywhere, even in deep shade, doesn't require a lot of water. And I put it there because I was short of a plant that was about that height. I needed to sort of fill in that corner, so I thought, let me dig up some aspidistras. What inspired me was that one that I dug up accidentally earlier this year when it was in bloom, and thought, if I have a pot of that, I'll be able to enjoy the blooms more, because you don't see them in the ground. They get covered with everything else. And I brought in from the garage, because all of my plants are in now, one of my species amaryllis, and they bloom about every other year. And so this is the third time that that one will be blooming. They do like to be pot bound. At some point I'll split the two babies off because I bought it as just a single bulb. But let's go outside and enjoy what's blooming in the yard. The cyclamen, of course, I'll be bringing in for the really hard freeze. I left them out last night. They can stand a touch of freezing weather as long as they don't get frost on them themselves. Of course, the bananas are looking a little the worse for wear. Here you can see the bloom stalk was starting. They will probably be killed to the ground. Oh, I did want to show you this particular camellia, if I can get in there. Flowers of camellias may be bothered by frost. Whew, it's tricky getting back in here. It goes over that hedge. This is an unknown variety I got many years ago. It's basically pink, sort of like a carnation. And I don't know as if you can make it out, but the leaves, the flower petals are jagged like a sawtooth. That particular camellia will get hurt by the frost. What it'll do is leave brown patches on the flowers that open. The cassia is still in bloom. I see the wind has knocked down my supports. Go ahead and move it back up to keep it looking good. It will die in the first hard frost, but at least it'll look good for today. The last viewing of the cassia flowers. They are a pretty plant. It will die back to the ground. My winter rye is still doing really well. It looks very green. Here you can see, of course, the pansies are going to make it well, going to survive well through the cold, as will the snapdragons. It won't knock them back any. But the green grass looks really good. Haven't been out by the street for a while. These pansies like it here because they get a little more sun. And if you look out here, lo and behold, there's another sign on my property. Well, on the sidewalk to my property. They're redoing the street that they just did last year. Turns out we had a really bad storm last week. We got about 2.5, 3 inches of rain overnight, some bad winds. Some trees are down. You can see by my neighbors there, there's a little pile of branches. But during that time, when they built or repaved and put the curbs and everything in the street, they failed to put drainage by the parking places they made. And so all of the parking spots on that side of the street flooded, nowhere for the water to go. So basically it flooded from curb to curb on that side of the street. It wasn't my side of the street, but still it flooded. So we're going to have to rip up the new road and do some work. Here everything is still looking good. Most of this will die back. The butterfly bush should be fine. Ooh, what a unique flower for the butterfly bush. I don't think it's, but oh, what that was one of my lettuces. Actually, I'll keep it in there. Keep it protected. Who knows? It may live. Oh, and the one other thing I didn't mention, I will go back because I don't know what state it'll be in next week. Of course, these camellias, Professor Sargent, are still opening nicely. Those buds haven't opened yet. This one may not bloom again this year because it is notoriously bad for dropping its buds if it has a hard frost, which we are about to have. I did want to show you, too bad you don't have smell-o-vision here, because my tea olive is blooming. It has little bitty white flowers, and they're all over the tops of the tree or bush. I see them from my den window, especially now because the sun's shining on the top. But they have an extremely strong fragrance. Inconspicuous flowers, but very strong fragrance. Had to put more bird seed out for the birds. Oh, and wonder of wonder, miracle of miracles, I have one of my bearded iris in bloom. The flowers only last for a day or so once when they're fully opened. I will probably cut that stalk off and bring it in the house. But I'm going to see if it'll fully open out here. Of course, my hyacinths are still coming up, as they were last week. And the encore azaleas, autumn carnation, are still blooming nicely. We'll see next week if the hard frost has affected them any. I know it won't bother the bush. I don't know what it's going to do to the flowers. I should probably cut this pod off here from my lilies of the Nile, or agapanthus, but I kind of like the look of it. Gives it a little bit of winter interest. If it's a hard enough frost, this rosemary may get hit, but 'tis what it is, or will be what it'll be. I still have a small bag of leaves to get rid of. My Australian tree fern hasn't been touched so far, and what I will come in and do probably tomorrow is, since it's strapped nicely together, I'll get like a bath towel and wrap it firmly around the base of that. Really, you only need to protect the growing tip. If that was on a long stalk, if it lives long enough, it'll get a long stalk. You really only need to protect the very top of it, because it only grows from the top. So, needless to say, I will be covering that. And there's some activity going on at my neighbor Sarah's house. She's expanding and getting a new deck. She did let me take a couple of cuttings of her pink angel's trumpet, which I've got rooting in the garage. I haven't checked them to see if they're in bloom yet, or in bloom, if they've started to root yet. Here you can see the little frosts have taken out the top of the peach angel's trumpet. I'm not going to bother protecting these in any way because they're back. The aspidistra will do the job for me. I can see here my Lenten roses are starting to come out, but I guess because of the dry weather, it doesn't have much of a bloom there. Pansies are still looking nice. Oh, you can see I did take down the air potato. It's a little more open over there now. This particular, how can I get in there without falling on my head? There's one of my hellebores that is in bloom. That one's starting to open. Let me see if I can hand this off to the other hand and pick the flower up. Ooh, what a beautiful flower. It's one of my Lenten roses or hellebores. That flower will last on that for a good long time. Hard frost shouldn't bother that because hellebores are known for blooming in snow up north. This hellebore has no activity. This camellia is in full blossom. I do like the nature of that. It's kind of randomly speckled. The iochroma is looking nice. It's not going to survive. The cutting that I took 4 cuttings and one of them did root, and I just potted it up, so it should do well. Plumbago is going to die back to the ground. That little azalea is looking gorgeous up in there. Let's see. I see a camellia there. Is that the only one? I think there's one on the other side. These 4 big camellias. Oh, I picked all my satsumas too. They're already picked off the trees. Turned out I only had a couple dozen this year. Hyacinths are coming up here. Doesn't look like much, but that's probably its 3rd year. So it's not too bad. Baby is bathing in the sunlight quietly, which is unusual for her. Let's see, I thought I saw a flower back in here. Yes, I did. How to get to it, how to get to it. Here we go. I think this is the prettier one. Yeah, oh, it shook a bee out of it. Oh, it's still got a brown splotch on it. But there you can see it just has like a couple of rows of petals, and it's more open. I believe they call that a semi-double. I don't remember the name of it. I believe it had a woman's name, but I planted it so many years ago. It wasn't a rare camellia. I got it from Lowe's. But I have not been able to identify it looking through camellia books. By the way, just a heads up, they do make a camellia field guide, which is a fantastic reference. However, for people like me that are a little lazy, it does not have a single photograph. Good reference, a lot of data, no pictures. You can see the seeds. Birds are coming and getting the seeds here and there. Oh, there's a squirrel up in my palm tree. I guess it likes to eat the flowers off of that flower stalk, the inflorescence. That inflorescence will be killed. Hopefully, the palms will do well. They have seen cold weather before. Again, all of my azaleas are the same autumn carnation. Now those bananas will definitely die back to the ground. There'll be a lot of trash for big trash pickup next week. Oh, and La Peppermint has once again reverted to a solid pink color. Pretty, but not what I planted. Everything here is doing fine. These yellow, I think they were called lace cap, something with lace. Chamaecypruses really shine. That's one nice thing about yellow foliage. If sunlight hits it, they really, really shine. Grass, of course, looks good here. The cold weather shouldn't bother my... there goes a squirrel running along the top of the fence. The cold shouldn't bother the lavender, but there's no telling until frost actually comes through. Datura has been hit, but the seed pods still have not yet opened. So I'll just let them stay exposed. And this angel's trumpet has yellowed. My blueberries have lost most of their leaves, as is to be expected. It is possible, if it's cold enough, that the fatsias may be hurt. The gingers, let's get a good look at them this week, because that will be the last time you see them in such a nice state. Frost will kill them back to the ground, or hard frost. I will have to cover my lady palms. The little one there is kind of hidden by the aspidistra. And this other one over here, I will just throw a towel over it. Or not towel, a sheet. And of course here, palm is still looking good. The volunteer fern that grew at the top, I'm leaving. I get a lot of fern volunteers in this yard. I don't know if it's from the birds or just the fact that it's a dead space because of the house and there are a lot of spores in the air, but for some reason I get a lot of fern coverage where I didn't plant it. Let's see if there is another one of these. A lot of peppermints blooming here, lots of buds, but yeah, there it is. This is what it should look like. But there you have it. I'm going to have my coffee out here on the deck, walk around a little more, enjoy more bits of the garden while I can. There's another view of this beautiful pink camellia. Yeah, sort of spend some time with the garden and enjoy what's here. Most of the things on the deck have been taken down. I'll tell you what, that lettuce has been in that pot forever. I don't eat a lot of it, but I have been picking it on and off. These will be brought in. I'll wait till Monday to bring them in. What I will do is go around. Of course, I have to cover my water taps and disconnect hoses. And what I do as an extra feature is make sure that the hose nozzles are open so that way no pressure can develop. But all of my clay pots, like this one, especially if it's been after a rain, which it will be when we get the hard frost, make sure that they're out of those, or at least there's no water in the saucers underneath. And the bigger, more expensive ones, I take a metal rod or something to poke with, and I poke 3 or 4 holes around the inside of the pot. I don't know as if that does any good or not, but I do it. It makes me feel good. But I'll poke, like in a big pot like this, probably 4 or 5 holes all around the side of it, figuring that it'll give some place for the frozen earth to expand and maybe save the pot. But there you have it. A beautiful day. I hope you all get out today and enjoy some of the weather. And then we'll be getting ready for the hard frost to come here in my zone 9A. So until next time, have a good week.